Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Beauvais and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Well, if you are counting the practices and not the actual days, the Bills are closer to the end of training camp than they are to the beginning, which is pretty crazy, at least as far as the Rochester portion of things is concerned. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. Matt Beauvais here, Sal Capaccio. Not recording from camp, not recording from We the Hobby, not recording from Barbill, recording from our homes. This is a pleasant change of scenery for both of us.
Yeah, I'm in Studio Capaccio. You're down in the Beauvais basement. Are you in the basement? Where is it?
Yeah, let's Beauvais basement. I like how that sounds. I like the alliteration.
Basement? Me too. And it was a 3-day run of camp, 6 out of 7 days for camp, and really hot, Matt. I mean, one of the storylines, how hot it is at camp.
Yeah, I mean, every day there's another heat related, illness or something tied to the heat. It's been 90-ish degrees, and that's real temperature. That's not feels like. Now, they've been getting off the field usually by noon every single day, so they're trying to beat when it's the hottest part of the day, but still, those mornings at Fisher have been sticky, especially lately. It is supposed to cool down a little bit for the next week or so that's kind of nice. But yeah, it's been hot, and there have been a ton of injuries, and we're recording this on Tuesday night. So Tuesday, July 29th. By the time you listen to this, there may be a new update. There may be new information. But right now, I think all eyes are just kind of on Max Hairston and what happens from here. So for those of you who don't know, the Bills' first-round pick was doing a drill. A non-contact injury happened. It appears to be a knee injury, but we don't know the specifics of it. It happened on the backfield. I don't know if you were watching, Sal.
No.
I was not. I was watching Josh Allen in the offense. I was trying to see a little bit of the work that they were doing. I was watching the offensive line against the defensive line. Now that the pads are on, those are always super fun things to be paying attention to. But off on the backfield, the cornerbacks and the defensive backs were kind of working on their own thing. And it sounds like it was almost just like a pass rushing drill that they were doing, right? Of like blitzing off the edge and bending and trying to show their agility. And then something, as Dane Jackson called it, a freak injury happened and he fell. And whenever you're talking about these types of injuries, a non-contact injury is the thing that you fear. Like those are the words that you are always scared of hearing, non-contact injury.
Tre'Davious White had a non-contact knee injury and a non-contact Achilles injury. Mm-hmm. And we know that those are the ones that usually are the more severe. It doesn't have to be, though. You could have a non-contact injury. You go down, you find out, hey, you twisted something. You sprained something. So what we do know is that Max Hairston was on the field sitting while lead athletic trainer Nate Bresky took a look at his knee. Looked like you're doing testing of his knee, bending it, doing all the kinds of tests that you've seen 100 times. And then he kind of laid back on his back and he put his hands up as if like he was upset, obviously. And, that's a sign right there that he knows something's wrong. His teammates come over. They're talking to him. As he gets up, Christian Benford is hugging him, Dane Jackson, Taron Johnson, everybody's around him. They're talking to him. And that's concerning because, they know that something could very well be wrong. I will also point out the same kind of reaction happened when Tyrell Shavers went down.
Exactly.
And he went on a cart. I mean, this is their teammate. So they don't know what's wrong. They just know our teammate's hurt and something is wrong. And we want to be there for him and pray for him and make sure that he's okay and know that he knows that we're thinking about him. He did walk off, I'd say, on his own power, but not without assistance. Nate Bresky did help him walk off the field. He put his arm on him. They walked off. So there's nothing we can gain from that. The only things we can do is wait until we hear anything from either A, the Bills telling us anything, or B, what I'm guessing is at some point over the next 24 hours, somebody like an Ian Rappaport or an Adam Schefter, who knows, maybe a Matt Beauvais or Sal Capaccio could say and tweet out and report something like, what the Bills have initial diagnosis has shown something. And from there, we'll go to either the worst case scenario, the best case scenario, or somewhere in between.
Yeah, so a couple things here, and I loved this line from Carl Jones. I was with him right after the injury happened, and he said, and this is not something I've heard before, but I'm certainly going to steal it, and I told them I'm going to steal it. Their trainers, when he played at Syracuse, always said, whenever an injury happened, base the injury off the injury and not the reaction, right? So like the injury itself, we have not seen. We've seen the aftermath of the injury, but oftentimes the reaction is very in the moment. And I feel like sometimes that leads us in the wrong direction.
Yep.
Now, all of that, and Shavers is a perfect example of that, because on Sunday, I think a lot of people probably thought Tyrell Shavers is done for the season. Well, as it turned out, he might practice later this week, and it wasn't actually that significant, which is great. And I'm sure Bills fans and people are hoping for the exact same thing with Hairston. The thing that's a tad concerning to me is, once again, this is me speculating, and I want to make this clear, speculating. We are not doctors. I feel like if there was good news, we would have heard something by now. I just feel like if there was positive signs, it would have been given or leaked from somebody in the organization to one of the big NFL insiders or somebody out there to try and put everybody at ease a little bit. That doesn't mean it has to happen, but it feels like if there was good news, we would know the good news by now.
I agree with that. I'd also say that for anybody who's asking, well, what do you mean if you guys saw him on the ground, you had video, why did nobody see the actual injury? And one of the reasons is they were just doing their own, drills off on the side field. So a lot of times the media is not watching that because Josh Allen was throwing passes on the other side of the field. And that's where a lot of us were focused because of the wide receiver injuries. A lot of us were over there watching Josh Allen throw to the wide receivers and the tight ends. This happened over on another field. So we don't know exactly how this happened other than it was a non-contact injury. And I agree with you. The longer this goes on without us knowing anything or hearing anything, maybe the more concerning it gets. Although I guess you could look at it the other way. A lot of times, Matt, when it is really bad, we know pretty quickly. And people say, hey, they're fearing the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Sometimes with those types of injuries, they actually can be diagnosed pretty quickly of like, okay, this is what's going to happen. So the other thing that complicates this is that there's an off day tomorrow.
Yeah.
So on Wednesday, there's an off day. Right. So we won't get an update from anybody at the facility because nobody is going to be there. Everybody went home for the day. So if it's severe, my anticipation is that we're going to hear something from somebody with the league on one of the national insiders on Wednesday. But it's tricky because if this would have happened yesterday, for example, we would have known today. We would have gotten an update from Sean McDermott. But also, Sean McDermott, for what it's worth, is not supposed to talk on Thursday. I don't know if this changes that. I don't know if Brandon Beane if the injury is significant, makes you wonder, would Brandon Beane address reporters? Would Sean McDermott talk instead of Bobby Babich? I just don't think they would put Bobby Babich out there to be fielding our questions about the severity of an injury unless, it's not bad. And that's the best case scenario,
And even then, usually he'll say that I don't talk about injuries. That's for the head coach, something like that.
So I think it's a little bit of a waiting game now. But I also don't think we need to be doctors to know that the worst case scenario would be a season-ending injury. So, right?
All right. That's right. That's right. And we'll wait and see. And we hope that Max Hairston is able to play. Bills fans hope Max Hairston's able to play. And if you want to see any video, I'm sure, Matt, you have plenty of it. WKBW TV, your Twitter feed. I've retweeted a couple other of our media colleagues' video that they had it. I was not there. I did not have it. Dom Tibbetts, people that you work with, anybody wants to see any of this video, it's all over, a lot of different places, basically.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, these are competitors, but I think that John Scott got fantastic video. Carl Jones got very good video. Yeah. Dan Fates from YM in Rochester, who's an ABC affiliate, got really good videos. There's a lot of stuff out there that can be consumed, but it's interesting. There's a lot of accounts catered towards injuries and injury news, right?
And
even those accounts are like, I can't get a gauge off of this because these are traditional standard tests that you would do, but I don't know all of the information based off of just this test. But I feel like the natural way to go is, even though we don't know the significance of the injury, if it is significant, even if it's not, right? Even if it's a couple weeks or something, would we have said Tre'Davious White was the front runner to be the cornerback 2 before this even happened? I think so.
You've been saying it before camp.
Well, I mean, it seems like now we're trending in that direction, and maybe that's his job for the entire season based off of the severity of the injury.
Listen, as you know, I've said for a couple months now, I think Tre'Davious White is probably the starter week 1, and that Max Hairston would have to win the job from him by flashing, by making plays that Tre'Davious can't make, and because they trust Tre'Davious and they know they have a certain floor with him. That being said, if Max Hairston's out any length of time, look what happened to Cole Bishop last year as a second-round pick, a guy they wanted to get in there pretty early. It didn't happen. If he misses any time, it's going to be tough for him to regain that time, to get on the field. And I agree with you. And it's not just Tre'Davious White. I think what happens if Max Hairston's out any time, that really opens the door for a guy like Dorian Strong, Dane Jackson, maybe, who could have been on the outside looking in, Jamarcus Ingram. I mean, these guys now, what did coaches say? It's next man up. It's opportunity. You never want it to be at the expense of somebody. Of course not. But I think they at least have built some depth in that cornerback room right now.
Yeah, they have. So let's start with Trey, because we are only a couple days in. And I think a lot of us were paying extra close attention to Trey when they started doing team drills on Tuesday. And I thought it was a good day for Tre'Davious White. And I think it's been actually
the best player on the field Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's funny because a couple days ago, Christian Benford was the best player on the field. You could argue today that Trey White had a very, very strong day. So when you take that, it's like, okay, this is a good sign. I just don't know what realistic expectations for Trey White are. It's a really hard thing to try and gauge, just because you know what he once was, and then you know what happened to him last year. What does he look like? The way I'm almost trying to figure it out in my head is trying to think back to when he came off of the injury the first time, the next year. Remember how when he came back, he was never truly right, and then it took him almost an entire additional offseason to be back? So now I'm trying to remember, what was he like in those first 4 games before he got injured against the Dolphins the second time, and how good was he, even though that was a couple of years ago? But the way I keep talking to myself in my head, as you're going back and forth with this, is if he's 60 to 70% of the player he once was, I still think that's an improvement from what they had last year.
All I can go by is what I see from him right now in camp, and I think he looks really good. But we haven't seen him go in live competition against another team with a lot more on the line. Yeah, these guys are still competing. They have jobs that they're fighting for and things like that. These are not regular season games against elite wide receivers, right? I mean, that's where the test is going to come. It might very well come pretty quick for Tre'Davious White against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football when the Bills open up the season. On Tuesday, what I saw was a Tre'Davious White that had instincts, and he had quickness and suddenness to him. A couple different plays he made, one in the back of the end zone. Now, they were going goal line one-on-one. So the ball's at the 5-yard line. Josh Allen's a quarterback. Got a guy run a route. He's going to throw it. Now, in this particular instance, I think Josh would have thrown it away. But because you're just running this drill, you're trying to fit it in there. And he was all over Joshua Palmer, Tre'Davious White was, in the back of the end zone. Josh still tried to hit him, even though Trey was all over him. And Trey then turned around, made a great pick on the ball, right? Great instincts right there. Good suddenness, and ability to do that. Then, in a totally different way, Keon Coleman, he's matched up against him at the goal line. He doesn't give him any breathing room, Matt. He's on Keon Coleman, a bigger guy, and he's into him. And Keon can't shake him loose. Ball comes in, knocks it away. Later, in 11-on-11, maybe the most impressive, even though those were very impressive, Joshua Palmer is running down the left sideline. He has maybe a half step on Trey. Trey's in decent coverage, but it's definitely a ball that Josh put on the money and Joshua Palmer could catch. Tre'Davious White, at the very last minute, used his length to perfectly time it and knock it away. And that's the kind of Trey White that I remember in a Bills uniform.
Yeah, and the celebration after he made that play of him and Christian Benford putting their arms up and running around the field with the airplane celebration. Right. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's the Trey White. That's the guy that has the juice. So I think it was especially promising to see a good day out of Trey, given the circumstance, just because it's natural, right? It's human nature to immediately go and prepare yourself for whatever the worst case scenario is. And the worst case scenario with all of this conversation is that Max Hairston suffered a very significant injury. But once again, we don't know if that's true. The other thing I'll say, though, about the cornerback position is after the first few days, I thought Dorian Strong looked good. After the last couple days, I do not feel that way. Since the pads have come on, I feel like he at times has gotten beat a little bit. And also, for what it's worth, Trey White did get beat pretty bad on that touchdown, the deep ball from Josh Allen to Steven Gosnell.
Oh, I actually did not see that play. Thank you. I knew that Gosnell caught it. I did not see the play.
So he got beat pretty bad, and he was like really angry about it. Like pouting paints the bad picture, but he was clearly bothered by the play for a couple minutes after the fact. So but this is always the thing. We don't exactly know what the assignments always are. We don't exactly know, was he supposed to have help over the top that he thought he was supposed to have? So there's a lot of layers to that. But I don't want people to be listening to this or watching this and say, oh, well, a couple days ago, you guys praised Dorian Strong. He could still be fantastic. But the last couple days has not made me feel like he's got any chance of competing for that starting job. Like, to me, it's obviously Christian Benford if he's healthy, and it's obviously Tre'Davious White if he's healthy. And then there's the gap. And then after that, it's basically those two guys and Jamarcus Ingram. So Dane Jackson, Dorian Strong, and Jamarcus Ingram all fighting for those other three boundary cornerback jobs. Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you call Rasul Douglas?
No, I would not call Rasul Douglas. I don't think so. I think the Bills like what they have with the, youth that they have and kind of, where they built this thing, the room. And I mean, it wouldn't be out of the question, but I think he's a depth piece. You bring in Rasul, it's kind of like he'd be kind of the guy you'd call to start.
I think Rasul Douglas, if you called him, first off, I don't think this is going to happen. I don't see this playing out. But it would be legit competition just between Rasul Douglas and Tre'Davious White, whoever would be on the field. But there is a ton of familiarity there with the system, and especially Christian Benford. Like, those two guys adored each other. So I'm just saying, if there's another injury down the road and he's still available, I feel like that would be a call that they would make, just because I don't think his market will be crazy. And obviously, he knows the defense. His play declined last year compared to what it was his first year in Buffalo. But I don't think he wouldn't be a useful addition. I don't think it's going to happen. It's just an interesting thing to think about if they have another injury at that position.
Yeah, and it is actually something that I was asked on WGR by Shope and the Bulldog today when I was
about Rasul.
No, about the corner position. Do you think they would even bring anybody in, like work out? Because they've done that at wide receiver. My answer was, sure, they could, but I think that they feel better about their depth right now, where wide receiver is just getting depleted. I mean, they have guys right now. I guess for Rasul specifically, I would say that's just something I wouldn't visit until I really needed to visit it, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason they moved off him. And that's the kind of a guy, like, you're going to pay probably a little bit more. You're not getting him for the vet minimum, maybe. I don't know. It just feels like it's not something they're going to do at this point.
I don't disagree, but there's also a reason they moved off Tre'Davious White. So that's now the guy that we are talking about starting opposite Christian Benford if the Haristen injury is significant. So just because they've moved off of him, if that's the best option that you have, I feel like you need to be self-aware enough, and they are, to realize what you truly are. And if you're like, okay, we liked our cornerback room, but we just lost our first-round pick.
Do you find it interesting that Rasul Douglas still doesn't have a job?
Yeah, well, I think that once again speaks to either the Bills' lack of talent on their roster last year, or that idea that, like, hey, it's better to move on from somebody a year too early than a year too late. Like, a lot of the guys, the marquee guys that the Bills did not bring back, are still available. Amari Cooper is still available. Doesn't it feel like he's just going to go sign with some contender for like $2.5 million and just go and try and be a prove it player? I mean, right? Like, if you look at the Bills roster from last year, all of these guys that they decided not to bring back, most of them are still available. The only ones that I think signed.
Oh, yeah.
Mac Hollins? Is that it?
I actually have a list. I've actually have a list here because I kept running tally a while ago, and I finally I went back and looked at it. Here are the guys that finished the season on the Bills roster who have not signed anywhere else yet. Okay, there are 8 of them. Okay. Rasul Douglas, Kareem Jackson, even practice squad guys. Tyreek Maddox-Williams, Amari Cooper, Austin Johnson, Jordan Phillips, Quentin Jefferson, and Ilianku, 4 defensive tackles, by the way.
Yeah. Well, once again, I think that paints the picture of why they were so focused on addressing their defensive line.
That's right.
Because all of those guys, they just had to go back into the well because it was the familiarity thing. But I also think that that's maybe some evidence why Rasul wouldn't be out of the question, because they are known to go back to the well with players that know their system. So if you're going to play a ton of zone, then Rasul Douglas could make sense if you need somebody. But I do think, to your point, that they like the room. I would anticipate right now they keep the guys that they have and hope that they get good news on Hairston.
Let's talk about some of the other injuries, because they are continuing to pile up. On Tuesday, offensive lineman Mike Edwards and wide receiver KJ Hamler both missed with heat-related issues from Monday. Larry Ogunjobi had a vet rest day, so that's not an injury. And then Alec Anderson was added with a knee injury. He was on the field. Remember the one day he got, booted out, but he was back there. He was walking around with his team, but he has a knee injury. Always encouraging when the guy's out in the field, though, walking with his teammates, right, Matt?
Yeah, definitely.
And then Dwayne Carter had an illness. He was out. Also, though, the Bills did get Dalton Kincaid back, and I think that's a huge story because I think the heightened sense of, okay, what's going on with Dalton Kincaid? Knee soreness already? They got him and Elijah Moore back after just one day.
Yeah, so in total, I think I added it up. There were 14 players that missed practice because of injury. Then when you add on top of it, Hairston and Cole Bishop leaving practice. Cole Bishop came back out of the tent, the medical tent, but I do not believe practiced. And Larry Ogunjobi had a veteran rest day. So you're talking about like more than a dozen players who were injured. I know the roster is bigger at this point. The Kincaid point is a good one. It feels like Terrell Bernard is close. It feels like Dawson Knox is relatively close. I believe Brandon Beane said on an interview with SiriusXM, I have not independently fact-checked this, but I saw a tweet that he mentioned Elijah Moore could be back Thursday and Curtis Samuel wouldn't be very far behind. So it feels like most of the injuries that they're dealing with are relatively short-term without knowing the status of Hairston. And the big one for me that we still really don't know a ton about is Spencer Brown. Like that's the one that I'm starting to become a bit more concerned with every passing day.
Well, that was my question here to you that I was going to ask you, which was how concerned are you about Spencer Brown? So since you said you're already concerned, I'll give my thoughts and let you expand, which is that the longer this goes on, the more obviously I'm getting concerned, not just because any injury longer goes on, but we're talking about a player who has had back issues before, right? We're talking about a player who really took a great step last year, who the team extended last year, and and Spencer Brown, and supposed to be an anchor on your right side, and right now he has not played. Neither, by the way, has backup center Cedric Van Pran Granger. He's been out with a calf injury on the PUP list since the start of training camp. I am getting pretty darn concerned about the situation with Spencer Brown. He also was on the field though with his team, but he hasn't done anything with pads, or I haven't even seen him working off to the side with trainers.
Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being skies falling, 1 being something to monitor, but not really concerned. Where are you?
5.
Okay. I would say I'm at a 4. So we're pretty in lockstep there. I do think it's better to be safe than sorry with a player like that. So that's the one thing I keep telling myself of, would he be out there if they were playing a game? Probably. I don't know that, but probably is what I would guess. I just don't know if there's any reason to rush it. So the longer it goes, I think the more it becomes concerning because of the unknown, but not because he needs to be out there getting the snaps.
When Sean McDermott called it a flare-up, you would think, oh, he's going to be out a couple of days. It's been the whole week.
Yeah. Well, he's huge, and a flare-up on somebody who's that big is probably a little bit more complicated than it is for like a more regular-sized human being, because Spencer Brown is a large person. So, yeah, I mean, that's the one that I think is the lingering one that's concerning about the 14 guys that missed or whatever the number was. After that, it feels like most of them, though, are relatively short-term.
Yeah, so the Bills get back after it in a couple of days, and then they're going to return back home here to Orchard Park for the return of the blue and red scrimmage. Okay, what else? Tyler Bass is the other one I wanted to bring up. He has missed a couple of days as well with a sore pelvis. Now, anytime a kicker is dealing with that, you're concerned. I would say though that since they haven't gone out and even signed another kicker to come in just for special teams purposes, I guess I should be encouraged.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Wasn't it weird watching practice today and them not have their field goal sections of special, just because they didn't have a kicker available, so it was just more time to do other stuff where they just kind of sat there and hung out. I think if the injury was even a 2 or 3 on the scale that I just brought up, they would probably bring somebody in, just even for a couple days, just to give that guy a paycheck and just have special teams work done. But that hasn't happened. So that leads me to believe, like, okay, maybe he'll be back out there on Thursday when we go back out there.
Let's wrap up with maybe a couple other guys that have caught your attention. Maybe we can pick one on each side of the ball, both of us. And I'll start because I don't want you to steal mine. And it's Matt Milano, because I've been talking about Matt Milano quite a bit. I just think Matt Milano has been fantastic, sensational at training camp. I mean, he diagnoses plays. He gets there. He just, when you watch him play, if you were to take Matt Milano's tape, even at training camp right now, and then just go put on every other Will linebacker's, tape, it just looks different. He just gets to a spot quicker. He diagnoses quicker. And a healthy Matt Milano is a big, big difference for this Buffalo Bills defense. That's the question, though. Can he stay healthy? And of course, next to Terrell Bernard, who isn't healthy right now and even playing, obviously that makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. I like the Milano call. Milano has an interception on Tuesday as we're watching practice.
Yeah, that's right.
Really read a play nice. Was so cool to see how excited Bobby Babbitt was about that. Matt Milano feels like the older version of Matt Milano. Bless you. Like that's what it's like watching him up to this point, which is really encouraging because that's also what he kind of looked like against the Chiefs in the playoffs. He was one of the few players on that side of the ball who I thought played well, even though there were a lot more guys that didn't play well. I'm going to go with a
even
newcomer.
though he was actually also dealing with a hamstring injury that he tweaked the week before against the Ravens at the end. Go ahead.
I'm going to go with a new guy. So that's my hint. Do you know who I'm going to say based off
this defense?
Guy? Yes.
Okay, new guy on defense. Ooh, okay. I think I know who you're going to say. I'm going to guess. You're going to guess Michael Hoyt.
No, but I like Michael Hoyt. Joey Bosa looks like he's still got juice.
Oh, okay. I like this.
Joey Bosa I've watched him a lot, especially the last few days. We're recording this on Tuesday. I was particularly impressed with what I saw Tuesday. I was also impressed with some of the stuff before they had pads on, but then you have to tell yourself, okay, they don't have pads on. Let's not overreact here. I just feel like if he stays healthy, which is a very big if, he will be a substantially better option than they have had at their second pass rush spot probably since Von Miller got hurt and Greg Rousseau is the number 2 guy. Like, I just feel better about Rousseau and Joey Bosa in some of those gotta-have-it situations that I've had in the past. Also, like, I was talking a little bit about this with Joe Biscaglia on Channel 7 tonight. Javon Solomon has also flashed a couple times too, which is another good problem to have for the Bills, but it also gives you a little bit of an insurance because of the Michael Hoyt suspension. So it feels like collectively they've got a lot better depth there, which is needed for sure.
Who do you got on offense?
I haven't been very impressed with the offense, to be fully transparent. I feel like it's been a bit too inconsistent, but not to a point where I'm worried or anything like that.
Defense always ahead of the offense this time of year, Matthew.
And they do this every single year. If you went and listened to this podcast from a year ago today, we probably said, the offense is struggling a little bit, and then Josh Allen went on to win MVP, and they scored a bajillion points. If I had to say somebody on offense, O'Cyrus Torrence might be one of the best guards in the NFL within the next couple of years. That is his goal. I talked to him about it yesterday on Monday, and I asked, hey, what are your goals for the season? Not team goals, individual goals. And usually people shy away from that question. Sometimes they're like, I don't really care. I just want the team to win, and that'll make me happy. He was like, I want to be known as one of the best guards in the NFL in my position. And I'm like, hell yeah, brother, because I think you're really, really good. So O'Cyrus Torrence would be one. I wish Khalil Shakir's awesome, but why is that a surprise, right? I'm giving you boring answers, but that's all I have.
I'm going to give you a guy that's under the radar I've been impressed with because he's gotten a little bit of opportunity here. I'm not saying he's in the mix, but maybe we should give him a little more because he actually was put on the active roster last year, and that's Jalen Virgil.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jalen Virgil's made some plays. He's made some plays. And remember, they did elevate him last year. They signed him to the active roster last year, actually, because he could play some special teams, and they put him in on offense a few times. Again, I'm not predicting here he's going to make the 53. It's probably the kind of guy you do the same thing with. You did last year. You put him on the practice squad, then you bring him up once or twice if you need him. But I think he's made some plays. He made a really nice high point catch on a ball in the end zone in this one-on-one drill I was talking about earlier today. And then he went back to he looked at the defender and went back to the huddle doing this.
Yeah.
The top head, that's what the guys do now when they catch the ball over top of you. They tap this up.
Yeah.
Tap you on the head is what I'm doing on the video side, folks.
Have you noticed Jackson Hawes at all? Because I was interested to hear how Connor McGovern talked about him on One Bills Live. I mean, he really, really praised him. Like, they asked if there was anybody that he was impressed with. I believe that was the question. And he immediately said Jackson Hawes and said he does not play like a rookie at all. And they are so unbelievably impressed with what he brings specifically as a blocker. So as a blocking tight end, that's a good sign.
Best blocking tight end in the draft who's considered. And he went to Yale. He's no dummy, right? I mean, this guy he knows his stuff. He can play in any system, I'm sure, and understand offensive concepts pretty darn good. I have not paid attention to him, but I'm going to make a note to make sure. Here, make a note right now. Pay attention to Jackson Haas. All right, I got it. I'm going to do that next practice.
Blocking tight end is not necessarily the thing that we are just absolutely running out onto the fields to pay attention to. And when there's 90 I guess there's not 90 guys because of all the injuries right now, but when there's 80 guys, sometimes some people get lost in the mix. Is there anybody else who we didn't talk about that you want to specifically give a little bit of shine to, of like, oh, maybe this guy is something?
Well, I like the days that Keon's stacking now. I do.
Uh-huh.
I think he's stacking a few good days together after an inconsistent start. I think he's been really good, but not that he's been overwhelmingly great, but he's making a couple plays that I just think that's what you brought him here for, that kind of play right there. He made one actually over Max Hairston on Monday. So I like the days that he's stacking together. We've talked a little bit about the size of Deion Walker and how just mammoth and massive he is. He's so noticeable in the middle of the defense. I think that's one I like. I like what I've seen coming along lately from Cole Bishop. I think Cole Bishop has looked pretty good since the pads have come on.
Yeah, but then the injury happens, and I know that he stayed out on the field. Well, he stayed on the field, but he didn't go back. I don't believe he went back into action. He was just.
Oh, I saw him out there.
Well, I think then he got hurt again and then didn't come back.
Oh, maybe the second time then. Okay.
I think because I had written down in my notes that I had not seen him, and a couple of us were chatting as we were watching practice.
I'm going to say this. He was on the field in the final defensive period.
Okay. So I did not see him on the field or notice it because the people, well, actually during that, I was trying to do Hairston recall. So that makes sense that if I would have missed that.
He was on the field in the final defensive period.
Wait, are you talking about the defensive period where Trey made that play on Josh Palmer? Because I did see that play, but I don't think he was out there for that.
I saw him because I asked somebody from Bill's PR about Cole, and then I looked. I said, "Oh, he's there. He's right there." So I saw him.
Okay.
Unless I confused him with someone else, I'm pretty darn sure it was him.
Ty Johnson also left with an injury, but came back. I did know that he came back.
Did he take a rep after coming back?
I watched him come back out onto the field and have his helmet in his hand and put it back on his head. So I don't, because that was also right at the end. A little bit of a cheap shot from Joe Andreessen, by the way.
Oh,
Did you see that play?
I didn't.
Yeah, down the sideline. The Bills. I mean, I think we can say it because there's people there. Like, it was a trick play, and they never do that kind of stuff. But there were people in the stands, and he was down the sideline and took a cheap shot. Just a late hit.
Late hit.
Yeah, late. Like, it looked like he was already out of bounds.
Yeah, there was a scuffle too.
Oh, there was a big fight.
Yeah.
Big fight. I was with a couple.
Chase Lunt was in it, I think. Zach Davidson had his helmet off.
Yeah, somebody got just. It was funny. There was probably 60 guys who were in the scuffle, and then Josh Allen was just standing there, and it was like, "Yeah, dude, stay as far away from that as humanly possible. You do not need to get in there at all." I think the injuries are certainly the big story right now. I don't know if they'll still be in a week, but a lot of this will also be dictated on the severity of Hairston. Because
no doubt about it.
If it's significant, that becomes, a massive blow to this team. It's just, even though you don't know what he is and you like the depth at the cornerback position, any sort of significant injury to anybody, especially a player who's a first-round pick, really, really would sting going into the preseason.
Yeah, we'll have more for you as soon as we hear anything. And you could follow Matt at Matt_Bove, WKBW TV. You can follow me at Sal Sports, of course, WGR Sports Radio 550. And we'll talk to you again later in the week, and we'll give everybody more of an update on anything we hear anything, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's the scrimmage on Friday.
Yeah.
So what is the remaining schedule?
We call it a scrimmage. It's an open practice. They might not actually scrimmage, especially with all these bodies down, but it is an open practice. They usually have a live period of some sort.
So the remaining schedule is, we're recording this on
Tuesday.
I got
it right here. You ready?
Yeah, well,
throw it up on the
screen. Hold on. I was going to say they're off Tuesday.
Now, the one you're not seeing there is a practice Monday the 4th. This is the fan schedule I'm showing.
Yeah, so Monday the 4th, there's that. So really, there's only 5 practices in Rochester left and only 4 practices open to the public.
That's correct.
And then preseason game. So, I mean, we're less than 2 weeks away from a preseason game.
And that'll be against the New York
Giants. The Hall of Fame game is Thursday.
Thursday night, Pro Football Hall of Fame game. Man.
Yeah.
Who you got? Detroit against LA. Lions, Chargers.
I was going to say, I'm glad you said who was playing because I would not have known. Otherwise, I knew it was the Chargers. I did not know that they were playing against Detroit.
All right. Well, that's the Hall of Fame game. It is here, football preseason. And after that starts, we will have NFL or college football every single weekend until basically the Super Bowl. or
not
just
complaining
that.
about that. I texted my buddies in a group message this morning how much like Jags Browns would hit on Thursday Night Football right now. Like I don't even need a fun matchup. Give me the worst possible matchup ever, and I would still be so much more excited to watch that than literally anything else on television.
Make sure you're just keeping us close by wherever that is. YouTube at Sal Sports, subscribed on iTunes, Spotify, the Odyssey app, wherever you do. Sal Capaccio, Matt Bove will come at you again later this week for another edition of It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. Thanks to our producer, Mike Robbie. Thank you for watching and listening.